All right, welcome back to another episode of Travel Ball Talk. I'm your host, Rich Prado, owner of Play in School. Today we're heading down to the Memphis, Tennessee area to catch up with Evin Einhardt, owner, founder of Wow Factor. Evin, how you doing, man? Welcome to the show.
Good, how are you? Thanks for having me. Excited to let people know all what we got going on.
For sure. You know, like just to give the listeners a heads up, this is literally our first time talking, so everything that they're learning, I'm learning at the same time. The difference is I've been sort of tracking you guys for a few years, you know, so I'm vaguely familiar. Some people might be more familiar, but I'm excited to learn. Let's just like dive right into it. I'm not sure I've seen, but maybe a couple of organizations that have achieved the type of explosive growth that you guys have had. Can you just talk about, like, 4 years ago, you started with, you know, where you started, and then the hockey stick amount of growth that you had in the last few years? Can you just sort of walk us through some of that?
Yeah, definitely. It started, Wow Factor actually as a training development facility, no teams, in 2017 when I retired pro ball, tore my labrum, and it was all focused player development, helping kids with the 5 tools, you know, average, power, speed, velocity. And that was my main goal, to kind of give back to kids that I couldn't play and try to prepare them for what pro scouts and colleges look like through training. And then that was kind of the main focus, you know, for 2 years. And then I started with kids who were 12, and they started to be 14. We had a couple throwing upper 80s, touching 90s. And then there was a lot of, you know, same guys that some of our direct competitors now were reaching out to get those kids, and I sent them to a couple different programs. Mm-hmm. And I guess through there, kind of learned what they did, you know, not knowing, again, people will laugh, but I said I was never going to do travel ball teams because I wanted all about the players in developing. And then I sent them out to a couple different teams, would see kind of what schedules they played, how they like it, and just got general feedback. And then 2019, September, was our first, I guess, team. We just put all my clients together around a bunch of different teams, and we went to Atlanta. And I did that only just to get in-game feedback, you know, live at-bats, pitching, just to see. And that was kind of just the plan, one team and the fall, and that was it. And then after that, because I was drafted out of junior college, Chicago White Sox, and didn't really have the best grades coming out of high school, so never really had a lot of Division I connections. When I started this, had some agents, good amount of pro scouts from playing pro ball, but very few Division I's. And after that first tournament, the Perfect Games rankings came out in November, and I had 3 guys pretty high up there, and 3 Power 5 schools reached out and were just like, what is this Wow Factor? And I kind of sat there and I was like, man, after one tournament, you know, to have 3 schools reach out, I may need to reconsider. And I was thinking. And then going in December, we decided to launch our first 3 teams. We had a 14, 15, and actually 2 teams, and 1 team came on late. But we started basically 3 that first year. I grew up in Michigan, so we brought a couple Michigan kids, but most of them are from Tennessee, and it was during COVID, which was crazy to think about. So we actually got some breaks into some big PG tournaments because teams wouldn't show up. So we got fortunate enough to kind of get in there and show it. And then it just evolved. We grew a lot bigger in Memphis that fall of 20. And then 2021, I guess we started our first national team. I didn't know because we had no players in the top 100. We just went after good ball players, and that team at 14 in 2021, I think, went 70-8. Runner-up in the World Championship was like 200 teams. So I think we finished 4th. And then that's kind of when the ball started rolling, where people are like, okay, this guy can get players win. And the expansions really started. And then 2022, which was our second class doing a national team, that group went 21-2 and actually won the World Championship. it was number 1 in the country. And then this year, was our 27, class. But yeah, going into this fall, I think, we'll be somewhere 350 teams in 28 states.
That's bonkers to me. That is absolutely bonkers to me that you started just before the world shuts down because of COVID, and the blink of an eye later, you've expanded to 350 teams across the country.
Yeah, and it was very difficult because we were growing basically, so we had to change a couple different uniform and apparel companies. Again, not negative to them.
Yeah, sure.
It just was a weird time because supplies were low, and to play for Wow Factor, demand was high. So it was, and I mean, crazy enough, I'd say 95% of the people that joined us all have reached out to us direct. It's not like we're just blowing up a ton of orgs to join us. They've just watched how we went from nothing to where we are. So we really know how to, help kids get on to college in pro ball and the right tournaments and events. And still to today, we're always trying to find, that competitive edge to make sure, we're staying as one of the best organizations in the country. And I think, that's why a lot of people have, reached out to us, but it's been amazing. It's almost daily now. New people want to do a team or open up Wow Factor franchises.
I'm imagining it started a couple years ago with a parent calling and saying, hey, we're looking for a home for my kid. And now you're saying, fast forward a little bit, you're probably still getting that, yes, but now you're saying you're getting calls from coaches and saying, hey, we've got a team, we want to be a part of you. That's a little bit of a change, isn't it?
Yeah, teams and orgs. I mean, we've had, I think our biggest group was just recently in Omaha, and they've got 50 teams and just joined us.
Unbelievable.
We were talking a little earlier. Yeah, I mean, we just had our first international program up there close to Ontario. Got game-ready training, so we got a good facility up there, and they're starting with one team, and they're starting it slow, but it'll be kind of fun to watch how our first time being in Canada expands.
Well, I'll tell you what, I work with a handful of Canadian organizations and friends with a bunch more, and I have so much respect for those guys. They're across this imaginary line, and the amount of extra effort and work that it takes for those guys just to get to even with a team that's south of that imaginary line is unbelievable. And those guys put in the work. The dedication is second to none. Again, it's like some of the stuff we take totally for granted. Like it's, you live here in Richmond, Virginia or Memphis, Tennessee. You're just like, oh, I can just pop over to this event that's got 50 coaches. Cool. No problem. Those dudes got to get on a bus or a plane, fly or drive for hours to get to an event with those. You know what I mean? It's just extra effort going across and getting through customs and doing these things. And oh, by the way, they can't get outside for most of the year because they're in 2 feet of snow all year. It's really impressive. So I wish you luck with those guys. I'm sure if those guys are anything like my other friends north of the border, then they're probably workaholics, man. So good luck with that.
Yeah, no, it's funny you say that because it's kind of cool as all the different markets we've got in, learning their needs, because a lot of them, some are have to have facility, player development driven. Others, it's kind of more recruit the players because training's not, but it is in Canada. I mean, that's a whole kind of really more like a baseball academy. They have to practice so much and train and then come as a team and play. But it is cool to kind of learn as now, we went across the United States and getting there, kind of learning each area, how they operate their travel ball programs.
So I got a saying that I say often. Bigger is not always better. I say that all the time. I think a lot of people chase growth, and it doesn't sound like you chased it. It sounds like it came to you almost organically. But I'm also thinking you probably had some level of growing pains as you went from one team to 10, 10 to 100, 100 to 300, and so on. What are some of the things, if that you might be able to just give a guy that's listening a heads up? Hey, just from 1 to 10, here's something that might trip you up. From 10 to 100, here's something that might trip you up.
Honestly, really baseball-wise, you're not going to have too many issues. It's finding the right uniform and apparel partner, believe it or not, because that's, I think, the only hiccups you would have is if people couldn't get uniforms on time, they couldn't get stuff, and they were upset, and it was a bad look. So, I mean, baseball, growing all those is, pretty organically, because you usually have the director in charge that runs all that. But, yeah, I would say it's the uniform and apparel company because once you start to learn that business, they run a lot off booking orders and projections, and ours is off the charts. If you're looking at it, you're growing at 250 to 300%. Most businesses, they project only 10 or 20% growth.
Yeah. Let me ask you a random question, and I've seen a few organizations bring some of that stuff in-house. Is there a number of teams or are you guys too spread out to do that, to just like literally make your own jerseys?
Yeah, I mean, that's been approached. Actually, believe it or not, we've been with Under Armour a little over a year and just signed 3 more. I mean, they've been really good. By far our best partner, and great relationship, great stuff. They have everything from the shoes to the gear to the uniforms, and I've been waiting to get over there and actually meet those guys in person. But Sam, I want to give him a shout out. Under Armour, they've been actually tremendous, turning jerseys, hitting deadlines, and you wouldn't think with them being so big. But yeah, I mean, Under Armour's been a great partnership for us, and we're going to continue to be.
Nice. They like that answer. They were getting a little nervous when I asked you about bringing it in house, so they like that answer. That's awesome. When you have the scale that you have, how important are those sort of like, I think you call them directors, your generals that are running each area? What's the most important thing about each one of those relationships for you?
I mean, you just got to have the right guy, because you're entrusting them with a brand you built. And that's, the best way to do it actually is get someone that kind of built their brand, partner with us, and it's a great partnership. You will run into some hiccups. We did early, and we don't really do that anymore. Guys trying to start up and think they can run an organization, and they get your name, and it just didn't go well. So we had to remove, a couple guys that just didn't respect our, values. But yeah, directors, I mean, those are the lifelines now when you're going into new markets. Obviously we have the national program people know, but then when you go into a new market, that's the impression the people there get of your brand.
So is it you prefer somebody who's been at it for a little while and they're basically just switching logos to come over to you, versus somebody who sees your logo, sees an opportunity, and they think your logo is going to take them from 0 players to 100 players? Just like you prefer the guy who's already established, it sounds like.
Yeah, for multiple reasons. Really because they know how to run a business and, handle the tryouts and roster management and, the collecting the fees. So, yes, definitely that's kind of our gear. Or we've created now models where new guys, we've kind of got a little more direction than people just kind of reaching out and saying, hey, can I start this? But, yeah, I mean, it's easier just to go get the organization and have that partnership with their needs, with our needs, and then, we just continue to, help each other and help the kids, get exposure.
Let's go all the way back to the very beginning. You were running a facility called Wow Factor. Are you still running the facility? Is that still open?
Nope. We gave it to another guy. Now we've got facilities, you could call them, or facilities, throughout the country that, in our new areas that we use. But like myself, for us currently, we don't have like a home base facility.
You're busy enough, it sounds like.
Yep. Yeah, I actually stopped doing lessons. I think it was November of 21, just because I had to focus on this. And, again, when you're trying to always be the best org, you're continuously busy, so you're not stagnant. So we're always staying busy.
Yeah, for sure. Let me transition over to some of my sort of my standard questions that I ask. A lot of these will take us down different paths and open up different different things that are fun and unique. The first one is there a book or movie or website, some kind of resource that you like to share with your coaches?
Hadn't shared, but I always do remember a book. And a saying was, I don't even know if that was back in the day. I think Eric Thomas. It was a video of a guy on a beach and basically takes him out in the water and dunks him, and then he can't breathe, and he brings him up. He was like, when you want to succeed, as bad as you want to breathe. So if your competition's sleeping and you're still working, then you're going to reach, a lot of goals. But no, that saying kind of stayed with me in my playing career and kind of going into this. So when you want to succeed as bad as you want to breathe, good things will happen.
I vaguely remember that video, and if it's the one I'm thinking, it was pretty powerful. I think it went pretty viral a few years ago.
Yeah, it was right around by 2012.
Okay.
I think it was right around when I was at JUCO. I remember I first saw it, and then he ended up, I think the guy was homeless and came in now one of the biggest, motivational speakers, Eric Thomas. I think he's still doing it. A lot of colleges bring him in. But, yeah, it was a really good video that kind of really stuck with you.
Yeah. So there's probably a guy listening who's 4 years behind you, 5 years behind you, 6 years behind you, and he's just cranking. He's maybe just opening up a facility, or he's maybe thinking about dipping his toe in the travel ball team thing. What's something you tell that guy, a piece of advice you tell him to send him on the right path?
Definitely, first impression is very important. So whatever they roll out, that first team, facility, your first impression is going to be very important. So just kind of definitely plan and, make sure that, what you're trying to achieve, is put out at the very beginning.
I like it. It's almost a cliche, but like cliches are usually, they're usually true. It's something your mom or grandma would tell you. First impressions matter.
Yeah.
All right, let's get into some travel ball stuff. What's one change that you think could be made to travel baseball that would have the biggest positive impact?
I think it happened I think it was end of April. I think with the NCAA rule switching to junior year, it was funny because a lot of people thought I was, I saw good and bad from it, of a kid committing at 14. Some of those kids did commit and were some of the best. But I think it was almost like a 50-50. So the other 50 I saw committed, and we'd be with them, and they just never progressed. They were very good young, and they didn't have a circle with them. Now, our guys, we did feel more comfortable with my, training background, baseball background, knowing the colleges and kind of the schedule in our program. If a kid committed, we would try to say, hey, be very real with him. Like, hey, it's a sophomore now. Like, this track you're going on, you're going to get cut. A lot of people, I think, would worship those commits and not really coach them up. So I think that was the bridge where they used them for marketing tools in their coach. So when so-and-so shows up to a college, they're lost because that, where me, it's all about the kids and preparing them. So I tell the parent, hey, you're not a shortstop, and they think he is, then maybe they'll work harder and prove me wrong, and that helps the kid. Or B, most of the time at 17, if we kind of say that, that's probably what's going to happen. And they go to school. Next thing you know, he's told he's got to play left field as a freshman, and then they're in the transfer portal. So I think now that rule was big time, because it kind of goes back, I'm only 32. When I graduated high school, if you committed as like a sophomore, it was unheard of. But yeah, when I first got in travel ball, I mean, it was, I remember a funny story when we started, we had that very good 14-year-old team. And two of my players, another travel ball guy took them away, and I was like, what? Like, the way that guy runs his program and how bad we beat his team, they're like, well, he got us on the phone with colleges already. So I learned really quick. I was like, okay, whether I think it's right or wrong, I have to, because it's all about, we're in the service business. It's all about what that parent wants. So if that parent and kid really wanted to be committed during it, well, then I had to petition that, or, the player would go somewhere else and they would do that. But now I love it because it's kind of now back into this developing and competing. I kind of think of like the old international Dominican. They have that July 2nd signing day. Well, now I think they don't sign, but it's kind of cool. Like, these kids get to just focus on getting really good until August 1st and not, committing or their buddy committing. And it was getting crazy, but I really do think that's going to be the best impact. I know a lot of my buddies that are coaches, even though they had success, I mean, everyone's happy because nobody wants to like miss on a kid and grab him at 14 and now he's just not that good. It's just a hard thing for everybody to swallow.
Oh, yeah. That's a big one. I tell you what's to me, it's like, it's easy when you're like the elite program and you can identify the most elite player in the country, and that kid's probably going to be elite once he steps on campus. But when you start seeing those like mid-major, kind of mediocre programs signing kind of mediocre sophomores because they're playing this like keep up with the Joneses sort of game, you just go like, how many of those kids do you have to miss on before you self-correct? Like what? Like, I'm just thinking of like certain programs. Like how? Like why did you need the NCAA to tell you to stop signing sophomores when you could have just done it yourself? I guess that's a different conversation. But I'm thinking of some really bad signs. You're just like that. That kid was a D3 player and you signed him as a sophomore at a mid-major D1 program. Like, like, come on, guys. Your job's on the line here. Be better. Like, I think it's better to sign a kid, be right, and wait and be later in the program than be early, but be wrong. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think the rule's great. And it's always funny. There was a lot of people would bash coaches, but it's like they don't understand like NCAA or you get professional. It's a business. Like, that's how those guys feed their family. So if those young kids would commit and it helps them, great. But now NCAA, that's why I'm glad they stepped up. But the coaches, I totally understand why you would try to get the next best young player, or even now. I mean, I think the whole game now, everyone better worry about getting bigger, stronger, faster, because when you go into college now, like, the development there is less. I mean, some of the big, they don't need to, because after the fall, they can look at their depth chart and then go in the transfer portal and NIL and go get the next best guy. So kids and everyone just better be with, travel ball programs that are up with the now and what is going on, and not just, selling kind of like a use. My goal is really build that relationship with the family and kids. Be like, this is what's going on. And if they don't like to hear it, I try to do my job, but it's very different than ever. I mean, it's also crazy to think we got kids making money. 2 years ago, people are like, it's hard to get 50% scholarship, but it's definitely a very interesting time to be a college athlete.
It is mind-blowing. It is so mind-blowing. The whole thing, it's like, I mean, you hope that somebody over there at the NCAA, has a half a brain, but I'm like, It's hard to convince me when we got essentially free agency and the NIL running simultaneously. It's like I don't know, man. I'm gonna reserve judgment, but I feel like that's not a super great combination. It probably is a great combination for a small percentage of the players, but overall, like just to kind of bring it back to what you were saying a second ago, if you're a prospect, you better be able to be prepared to hit the ground running, and that the level of strength and speed and size at the college level right now, at all levels, is incredible. So like you better find a weight room. You better be feeding your body, and you better be improving your strength and speed, because the game moves fast and it is physical.
Yep. And I always tell them the fourth tool, they got to, have baseball IQ. That's another thing I think missed a lot going into college is, actually knowing signs, getting what the coach tells you. If you need to bunt, hit and run, do all that. I think a lot of people get the showcase, which it's great, but that's only going to get you so far. And if you can't actually play the game of baseball, it's going to put you down, a lot earlier than you think. Even if you have all the tools in the world, you got to be able to actually, pound the zone, two-strike approach. You got to have actual hitting approaches. And that's kind of what's crazy, because we get some of the best kids in the country. And I just think that's a big miss on, if I could talk to players, is some of their training to actually be able to play the game of baseball as well.
The funny thing is you see it all the way up to the big league level now, because the showcase thing has been around for long enough. That kid who showcased well, but maybe wasn't, the highest IQ guy, some of those guys are talented enough that they're making it to pro ball, making it to the big leagues. And you can see it. You can see it in base running errors. You can see it in those, the cuts and relays. It shows up, and usually shows up in an important time, by coincidence. So how do you teach that at scale? Like, is there a way to, because you're at such high scale with 350 odd teams, like, it's such a nuanced thing to teach that baseball IQ. Have you figured out a way to try to download that into your guys who are wearing your uniforms?
Yeah, the national umbrella, we do the most. Can't give all our secrets, but that's kind of a lot of the stuff we do during. And then, regional guys, they get a lot more time with them, because most of those train at that facility. It's kind of broad reach, but nationally, we got players coming in from all over the country, and we have to kind of tight the line, because a lot of them have hitting coaches, pitching guys, so it's kind of working, with them. But, that is our bigger focus when they get there, I think, than a lot of programs. Again, because I just say we got a lot of high-level coaches, on our staff, one being Bill Hall, played 11 years in the big leagues. He's our 6-year national hitting coach. We just got Josh Copeland. He's coming over to us, was a high draft pick arm out of high school. And then Nate Headley actually coached at Tennessee and runs a lot of that 108 performance. But that's kind of another thing with our players, is we try to surround them with a lot of high-level coaches, that played a high level, so they can actually relate being there. Like I said, you don't have to, be a pro or play high level, but I think it does help when you're trying to, talk to players that are preparing to be first-round draft picks, and not even just so much baseball stuff, the lifestyle you're going to live, all that on and off the field, encouragement, pressure. And then that's my goal with our players, is just call me up, be like, man, coach, how did you manage? This is my 20th day of spring training. I'm feeling tired. I just think it means a little more if you've been there and somebody else kind of maybe harping on you or doing something that, wasn't there. I just think there's a big benefit there.
That's so well put, man. So well put. Listen, before we wrap it up, I want to give a shout out to a buddy of mine, Wes Reinders, who just hooked on with you guys down in the Atlanta area. Looks like you guys have brought him in as the I don't know what title is here. I'm looking for it. Southeast Executive Director of Baseball. And he's a stud, man. Wes is a stud. I love that guy.
Oh, yeah. I met him. We met him. We were kind of meeting there. And here the WBA kicked it off, and it really showed, I guess the significance is how many college coaches texted me with that. So it's like, I knew we made in my head, I knew it was a good move, but when they justified, but yeah, it's a little late start there. I know he's doing a lot in our Florida, and then I think next fall, the Atlanta market. I always say it's kind of like the Mecca. I mean, you won't believe how many kids from California, Washington, Arizona, they all want to play that East Coast circuit, and with Lake Point being there, and then East Cobb, there's a lot of really good baseball going on there.
Well, you got one of the top dudes in that area for sure. I heard somebody described it to me recently as the Silicon Valley of travel baseball, and I was like, dude, that's the best description ever. So, well, listen, man, I appreciate your time today. Do you have any parting words for any coaches or parents or players who might still be listening with us today?
Just like I said earlier, when you want to succeed as bad as you want to breathe, good things will happen, in life. So pretty much I think people can live by that motto, whether they want it in sports, job opportunities, just put the work in, and it may not come to you quick, but you just got to keep putting that work in and good things happen.
Love it. Hang on one second. Don't hang up. I'm going to stop the recording, but I don't want to lose you. Hang on one second.